The cell cycle. Today's video is a basic overview talking about what happens in each of these stages. Cells are the basic blocks of all living things. We as humans are built with millions of cells all functioning to keep us alive and healthy. And the interesting part about this is that we all started out as a single cell in our mothers. So that begs the question, how did we start out as a single cell and come to be this complex multicellular organism? Well, the answer to that is replication. Cells have to divide and make copies of themselves through a process called the cell cycle. So when we ask, what is the cell cycle? It is the sequence of events that a cell must go through to divide into two daughter cells. It consists of four main stages, and that is G1, S, G2, and mitosis. So why do we study the cell cycle? Why is this important? Well, the first reason is one that I've already mentioned, and that is that our cells, if they don't go through this process, then they'll never replicate or be able to reproduce, and we won't get multicellular organisms, or a bacteria won't be able to survive in a place without division. Another reason is that there are important checkpoints and steps to follow that can help us prevent viral infection and cancer from taking over our cells. So if our cells detect anything amiss in this process, it will stop the cell cycle, and by doing so, it prevents the bad things from spreading or multiplying. So the biggest division that you can make in this diagram is that there are two main stages. There is interphase, and then there is M-phase, which is where division happens. So we'll start with interphase. Interphase is considered as a preparation or sometimes called a resting phase, and this is between mitotic divisions. This portion includes the G1S and G2 phases. So let's dive deeper into these individual phases. We'll start with G1. G1 is an intermediate phase. This is a time for a cell to grow, and it's where it spends a lot of its time. This is a resting area. Proteins and mRNA are also synthesized to prepare for the subsequent steps that lead to meiosis. The next phase is S phase, which stands for synthesis. This is the synthesis phase. This is where our chromosomes replicate and make two copies so that each daughter cell will have its own. This section of the cell cycle is tightly regulated and widely conserved. This is so important because this is our genetic information. If anything happens to it, the cell could be in big trouble. The next phase we have is G2. This is the shortest phase of interphase. Organelles are duplicated and the cytoplasm increases in volume, and this is really just a preparation for division. This is the key difference, I think, between G1 and G2. This is not just growing and getting bigger, but it's making two of every required organelle and getting big enough so that each daughter cell can survive after that division happens. So mitosis is the final step, and M phase, which consists of mitosis and cytokinesis. This is where division happens. This is a multi-step process by which chromosomes are aligned, separated, and it results in two daughter cells. I won't be going into the specific steps of mitosis in this video, but it's really important to know. What you should get out of this video is that M phase is where the cell divides. Cytokinesis is labeled in this diagram as well, and that's just the final division of the cell membranes that finally results in two cells. Lastly, I'm going to briefly mention G0. This is a really unique phase that's actually outside of the cell or replicative cycle. A cell can enter this because of environmental factors like nutrient deprivation, because if you don't have those nutrients, then you can't get bigger, you can't replicate yourself or your organelles. And this is kind of a resting state. Neurons are an interesting exception to this, going into the G0 phase because of their developmental program rather than any environmental factors. Well, there you have it. That was the cell cycle. Interphase with G1, S, G2, and M phase with mitosis and cytokinesis. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I'll do my best to get to them. Thank you for watching.